Hey everyone, welcome to the channel where we love to talk about movies. Welcome especially if you're new. If you enjoy talking about movies and staying up to speed on what's in theaters and what's worth checking out, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a review. Alright, with that we're going to get into today's review, which is for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I saw this last evening in the theater, so I've had a little bit of time to sit on it and kind of collect my thoughts, and we'll dive on it. And so this will be a spoiler review, so just be warned. I'll start off though with kind of my general thoughts and letter grade. I generally put that first, and then I'll go into kind of 5 points on the film that stood out to me. So, just giving a synopsis of the film, the people of Wakanda fight to protect their home from the intervening world powers as they mourn the death of King T'Challa. So, this film, I knew absolutely nothing going into it other than that it was coming out. I didn't see the trailers. I actively did not watch the trailers. I've listened to the trailers as they play before movies recently, but I've actively closed my eyes. I wanted to go in as blind as possible because the last couple Marvel movies I thought they gave way too much away in the trailers. So I knew though that the script had been majorly reworked with the passing of Chadwick Boseman and that they weren't recasting him. So that much I knew, and yeah, having seen the film now, my letter grade is a C, and that's fairly low on my list. It means that it was just fine. There are definitely elements to the film that I really liked. I thought there was everything was there for this to be a great movie, in my opinion. I just thought that it didn't come together. For it being basically 2 hours and 45 minutes, I think there's a lot of fat in the film that I personally didn't care for. That if they had trimmed it out and stuck to like a 2 hour film of the stuff that I particularly liked, I think like not only would it have been a B, but it would have been an A as well. So that's kind of where I landed with this. And yeah, the like I wanted to put it higher. I feel like part of it is just the fact that I am a Marvel fan, and I don't know. I think I went to see it with somebody who's not huge on the MCU. They've seen some of the stuff, but yeah, and they enjoyed it quite a bit. So I think that's maybe part of it, like being a hardcore MCU fan and having seen everything, it didn't feel as fresh at the end of the day as I would have liked. But yeah, so unfortunately, it's not one that I'd say I'd recommend. It's not a bad movie. Certainly don't necessarily like stay away from it, but I can't say that it's one that I recommend. There's I think a lot better stuff out there, a lot better stuff in the MCU, unfortunately. So that's my non-spoiler thoughts on the film. Now we're going to dive in. Spoiler warning. These are 5 things that stood out to me about the film. And while I didn't like the film overall, I'm going to focus on the things that I did like because I think there is a lot of good there. And again, I think if they had just kind of tightened up the script, removed some elements, it would have been a fantastic movie. So, the things that I really liked. First and foremost, I liked that it's about Shuri. It's definitely her story. She's the main character, and it examines what she's going through in her grief process, not only right away with the passing of T'Challa, but then when we get halfway through the film, we've already said spoiler warning, when her mother, the queen, dies. And both of those happening within basically a year, just seeing her go through that process and how angry she is at the world. I really liked what they did with her character, but for whatever reason, I think it comes down to editing and all the other stuff they put in the film, it didn't connect with me as much as it really should have, and not as much as other things that have done similar things have connected with me. Like, I connected so much more with Wanda in WandaVision, who's going through similar stuff, but this one, for whatever reason, just didn't hit me as hard. But I really liked what they were going for. So second up, the thing that I really liked was I was shocked that they killed the queen. I thought, like, I mean, Marvel rarely kills off people, but having lost T'Challa at the beginning of the film and then having the queen dead in the middle, that took me by surprise, and I loved that aspect of it. I love it when when we actually get some real consequences in the MCU. So that was the second point that I really liked. And then third up, this one is not necessarily something I liked about the film. Although I'll mention a couple pieces that I did. So Namor or Kukul Khan, I think is what he's called. If I'm butchering that pronunciation, I apologize. But he's set up as the villain of the film, and he's not necessarily a villain to begin with. But I thought he was a very two-dimensional villain, very stereotypical. It feels like it's something we've seen before. They kind of try to make him a little bit more three-dimensional, but it didn't work for me. Maybe it works for other people, but I thought he was just not very complex and very straightforward and kind of stereotypical. It felt like he took a turn in the movie to go from potential villain to full villain without much cause, and just because the movie kind of needed him to. And so I didn't really care for that a whole lot. It's Yeah, I mean, I can understand where he's coming from a bit, or I can try to anyway, and it's still like I still didn't really get a good explanation as to why he was so willing to kill an innocent scientist who just built a piece of tech. So you just kind of have to go with it. And you're like, well, I guess he's the villain, so he'd be doing villain things. That didn't really work for me a whole lot. So I didn't care for the villain, especially coming off, like, I thought Killmonger's one of the best MCU villains, and having that very fresh in memory for that being the first film of the series, yeah, this villain just didn't really work. I did like that he was fairly different though. He wasn't just a duplicate of the hero gone bad, which is a lot of times what you see. So the fact, I mean, he's still like a mutant. I mean, the Black Panther's maybe not a mutant, but he's a mutant with like superhuman abilities. But he wasn't, yeah, it wasn't a carbon copy of the hero, and I thought that part of it they did well, and it was refreshing to see that. Fourth up on my list, I think my favorite moment in the film is the Killmonger cameo, and I love how they do that, where it's just you get the shot of the throne from the back, and then when we get around to the front, we see that it's Killmonger, and I loved it, but at the same time, it made me realize how much was missing from this film, especially compared to the first film, and I was glad they brought him back at least as a cameo, and really liked the scene between him and Shuri to kind of show where she's at mentally at that stage. And kind of on that note, I did like how she isn't all like she doesn't like she's not all in on the beliefs of her ancestors and that there's an ancestral plane. I thought it was great to see just, another person and another take in the same culture of Wakanda, but there's different levels of, what you can believe in when it comes to spirituality. And Shuri's very much more into her technology. And yeah, I thought that was interesting where like she's like, no, you don't need to bury me, because I think she fully thinks she's not going to go to the ancestral plane. And then she does, and yeah, meets Killmonger. So the last thing that I liked was the music. I thought Ludwig Göransson did a great job again. I thought he brought a lot of new themes and sounds to it. I don't think it's as epically great as the first one, but it's different, and I like that it's different, even though I maybe don't like it as much as the first one. I think it's also a lot more serious of a film, so there's a lot more scenes where there's just no music, and while I like getting new music, I recognize kind of the appropriateness of having a lot of silent scenes that way. But those are five of the more positive things that stood out. There's definitely a lot of things that I nitpicked and didn't like about the film, but I don't really want to go into those. I generally try to focus on what I liked about a film. And yeah, I'm hoping other people like it better than I did, though. I certainly yeah, hope that I don't want to tell people to not see it, but based off my own experience, I can't say that I do recommend it. But I think, I don't know, I'm curious to see other people's reviews and hear your thoughts. If you've had a chance to see it, I'd love to hear it down below. Did you like it? And, what were your favorite parts? If you want to share what didn't really work for you, definitely. But again, I try to stick with the positive things when I can find them in a film. So share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to smash the like button. And with that, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.